Hey guys, welcome back to A Story with Rory. I am your host, and tonight we have a very special guest with a very intriguing, enticing story. Hey Anna, how's it going? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Rory. I'm calling from Edmond.
Oh, nice. I used to travel there every day for work, so
Mhm.
cool. So tell us what your story is, and just kind of start from the beginning.
Mhm. So I took a large group camping to Robbers Cave last week. We got there on Wednesday. We were there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We left on Friday. So
Hmm.
Wednesday was the first night we were there. And there were nine teenagers and four adults in this group. And so we had three campsites. And we were, if anybody's familiar with Robbers Cave, we were in the Dogwood Loop, which is the furthest, most primitive loop.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that wasn't deliberate. It just sort of happened that
Yeah,
way. So,
that's
but
cool.
it was very very far. It was very distant from the other campsites. It was distant from the lodge. So it was basically at a dead end.
Right.
So it was very quiet there. There was no very little street noise, anything like that. Very isolated. And so Wednesday night, I woke up at about three. I would say about 3:15, and I was hearing just truly bone chilling, screaming, whooping sound. And when you're first waking up, you're just trying to figure out reality. And I
Hmm.
thought maybe one of the couple of the teenagers that I had with me were watching a horror movie or something, but then reality clicked, and I'm like, we're in the middle of the woods, so I don't think so.
Oh.
So I just laid there in my tent listening to this sound. And it originated, so we were on the river, just right on the river. In fact,
Hmm.
one of our campsites was just like trees and water. And we, as it turns out, probably five or six of us heard it because we talked about it the next morning. But what I heard was the sound was a little up the river, and the sound was constant. It was a
Right.
constant sound. And it went all the way down the riverbank. And I could hear like branches breaking and leaves snapping. And
Man.
as it got closer, of course, it just got louder and louder and louder. And
Right.
it was incredibly loud, and it was very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not fun. It was not a fun sound to hear in the middle of the night in a tent. That
Right.
is for
I bet,
sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's bears and all sorts of stuff, but this
Yes.
almost sounds like it's a different level of
Yeah.
what the heck did I just hear?
It was. It was. I've camped my whole life,
Right.
childhood up. I've camped, and I've primitive camped as well. But I've in all that time, I've never heard anything like this or experienced
Same,
anything like
same.
it
I've camped my
ever.
whole life. I was a Boy Scout, and
Hmm.
you know, maybe like a shriek from a bobcat or a mountain lion might have been the only things that we've ever heard growing up.
Hmm.
And we camped in Boy Scouts. You camp a lot. You camp.
Hmm.
You basically consider your weekends taken up for camping, and then they had
Hmm.
events throughout the year you went and camped at. As long as it wasn't snowing, you were out there probably camping. And so, yeah, I get what you mean. And a lot of ours were primitive camping too. So,
Hmm.
you haven't heard anything like this before. What
Never.
what would you like if you could guess? If you could guess how far this was away, um, just in feet, by hearing it, what would you guess?
So I'm not good at estimating distance at all. So this is a very general guess, but we were I mean, we were. I could have thrown a rock and hit the water, and this was on like walking along the water's edge. So
Right.
maybe 150, 200 feet. It was very very close.
Within eyesight.
Very much within eyesight.
Okay.
Absolutely within eyesight. Yes.
Did anyone go out and look, or did everyone just kind of stay in their tent frozen?
No. Mm-mm. That sound, I'm telling you, that sound, you would not have moved. You would not have wanted to know what was there if you had heard
Right.
what we heard.
Did anyone get like an audio clip with their phone or anything? Did anyone try to record?
Unfortunately, no, because it was 3:15 in the morning, and when I woke
Oh
up,
yeah.
I was really disoriented listening to it, and it never really even crossed my mind to try to record it. I really wish that I had, because it was so very unusual. But no, I think everybody that heard it was just so freaked out. Only thing that they had on their mind is what is out there.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. I mean,
It was
you
scary.
know, a lot of times when stuff that happens in that nature, a lot of people will. Everyone's different, okay? Some people will pull out their cell phone and start recording, and some people will just be like, "What am I listening to? What am I listening to? Let me get a grasp on what I'm hearing before I try to investigate further. But I need to know what I'm either seeing or hearing or what." And so it kind of messes with your head. And there's been reports of people that have had um, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, sightings, and they either get dizzy, they get nauseated, like upset stomach, because there's predators out there that put out an infrasound. I don't know if you know anything about that, but
No.
that's something that can disorient prey, for predators. And I'm not saying Bigfoot use that on people, but there have been reports of people that have had some kind of encounter and felt those ways, and they've documented it and stuff like that. And I don't think they're just doing that for the heck of it. When you feel sick, you feel sick, like you want to note it down, like, hey, I felt sick on this day, blah blah blah. But
It was
yeah, that's wild.
yeah, it that sound definitely like it went up my spine and I was covered in goosebumps and I was laying there and
Mm,
my car was, right across the camp and I'm in this tent by myself, and I'm thinking, well, I think I need to get in my car. And then I thought, no, because between me and my car is that.
yeah,
So I'm gonna stay in my tent and take my chances on hopefully this thing just going. And it went. I heard it, and the other people that heard it also heard it going all the way down the side of the riverbank. Um, and the sound went on you could hear whatever they were walking down the side of the riverbank all the way down the river, and they were making this sound until the sound just trailed off as they got further and further away. And the sound it did not stop. It didn't not stop at all. It was a consistent sound.
like the
It,
footsteps.
the
How
the
how do those
howling.
sound like?
Well, I could hear the branches breaking, and I could hear, crunching. Whatever it was large. It was heavy because it was doing pretty significant damage as it was walking. And in fact, the next day, the myself and the other kids that heard it, we went out and we were looking, and what we figured out was it was not on our side of the river; it was on the other side of the river.
Right.
And we could see, branches that had been broken, but we couldn't really see footprints or anything because we couldn't get over there that far.
Did you see how high up the branches were by chance?
Yeah,
Just
they were high. Yeah, probably 7, 8 feet up.
so nothing like an Oklahoma black bear, which let's just be real. The Oklahoma black bear, I'm not saying that they're not common, but they stay in a certain area. They definitely don't walk on two legs and break branches. Out of all the people that I've known that have studied black bears in Oklahoma, that's just not of their character. So, from what you're saying, heavy footsteps, it was high up on the tree breaks. They weren't cracks; they were
They were broken.
downright break and pops, right?
Yes.
And the fact that you heard whatever it was communicating with something else, and it was a different voice, a different decibel, um, and just different kind of sounds, that you just can't put your finger on. Like you definitely have an anomaly, on your fingertips, and it's definitely meets the criteria of Sasquatch and Bigfoot, and there's a lot of people like in the Appalachian Mountains that say they're like mountain men, like that haven't reached civilization or something. I don't know if that's the same thing, separate, whatever. But yeah, you definitely have a story with all the criteria that you need for a Bigfoot encounter. And I mean, you said six of you heard it. So did like the kids? Were they all still asleep and kind of slept through it, or?
Some did, some didn't. It was myself and at least two of my staff members heard it. And
Hmm.
then the teens, two or three of them, I know for a fact two heard it. I think three heard it, but the rest, teenagers, they can sleep through an atom bomb.
That's right.
But
That's why I
some
was
of,
asking.
yeah, yeah, some of them did wake up and they
Okay.
heard it. Yeah. And like I said, we all kind of sat around the campfire the next morning, making coffee, and everybody was like, "Hey, so did you hear anything last night?" And those that heard it were like, "Oh my god, what was it? What
Like,
was it?"
let me tell you about it. Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure that
so
made for a good, interesting morning chat, you know.
it was. And we also, kept pulling up on YouTube the sound of wolves howling, not that, the sound of coyotes, the sound of bobcats or mountain lions, foxes, anything that we could think of that would have possibly been in the area. um Wolves and coyotes have a definite canine sound to their vocalizations. This was not canine. Bobcats and the mountain lions, they have a very feline sound to what their vocal is. Not that.
Right.
Foxes, it's not that loud. It was nothing. There was nothing that was comparable.
Right. See, to me, that's what puts the bullseye um, on what we all can say and think and what we suspect that it is.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there's people that get video, of Sasquatch and or at least like a figure of it, and people still are like, no, that can't be Sasquatch. It's got to be a guy in a suit. I'm like, there's certain things that you encounter out in the wild, and there's just sometimes you just have that shadow of a doubt that it's not a person playing a prank, and I believe that's what you have here. So that's wild and crazy. I've camped at Robbers Cave. I think we stayed like in the lodge, not the lodge, but those little cabins.
Hmm.
Um, I want to say we might have camped like one time, but it hasn't been definitely not primitive camping. Yes, we have. Like back in 2015, 16, me and my wife, we camped there, but we never heard anything at night other than the regular coyotes and possibly like gray wolves and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But man, what you're describing to me is pretty shocking, and terrifying.
It was very scary, without a doubt. I mean, the next night, the majority of the kids decided to sleep in our van.
Yeah.
They were like, "No, I'm not doing the tent thing."
So was that on night number 1 or 2?
One. Hmm.
Oh dang! Talk about a surprise welcome.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, primitive camping, there's no bathroom there either. And so, in the middle of the night, the kids were getting up and like, going outside to pee. But that second night, they were just like, mm-mm, nope,
Yeah. Not
nope,
doing it again.
nope, 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 not going to drink any water, not doing any of that. So, yeah.
I tell you what. I hope I get some more people on that have been to the same area that you're talking about and can kind of have some of the same story attributes that we can kind of connect the dots and say, okay, we didn't just have one group of 6 that heard it. We have another group or another 3 people or person, and that builds credibility
Mhm.
on its own. It really does. It really kind of it shares the viewpoint from different perspectives and different angles on what somebody or many people encounter. So
Yeah, and then
that's
when we
crazy.
went to get the firewood, I asked the girl that worked at the lodge at the desk, if kind of described it, and asked if other people had described that, and she kind of was a little cagey, and she said, "Well, do you want me to
Yeah.
call the what the
Park ranger.
the park
Yeah.
ranger? Yeah, do you want me to call the park ranger?" I'm like, "I don't know what he could do," but then
Right.
she tells me that that same night around 3:30. She lives on site and her dogs never bark. They don't act out or anything like that. And she said her dogs were going bonkers, like
Wow.
howling, barking, trying to get out of the house. And she said they don't normally do that. And that was about the exact same time we heard that sound. So I wonder if those two things are connected, or I don't know.
Man, that's so the was it called Dogwood Camp?
Dogwood Loop. Uh huh.
Dogwood Loop. So how far is the Dogwood Loop from where she's at? or where she stays at during the.
It was about a mile or so from what she was describing.
But she's up in kind of like on the hill, mountain
Yeah,
elevation.
just
Okay.
kind of up a little further than we were.
And you guys were kind of like base level with the river.
With the river. Yeah.
Dangerous place to be, apparently.
It was pretty
So,
cool though.
yeah,
The kids will never forget it. That's for
yeah,
sure. I will never forget it.
it definitely makes a great story. And
Yeah.
um, that's, well, it's what's so crazy about it is hearing something that close to like Oklahoma, because Oklahoma just has a ton of sightings. Like it's a lot for Oklahoma, you know. Texas has like a tremendous amount. You know, obviously Washington has the most,
Yeah.
Washington State, but man, I tell you what, Oklahoma definitely has its fair share, and I really think like northeast all the way down to the southeast, to the bottom of the state, like Broken Bow, Kiamichi Mountains, all that is
Yeah.
where a lot of the activity is. You know, we've had activity kind of like where I'm at too, out in the country, and northeast part of the state, and it's just I can't describe it. You know, I sometimes will try to go and investigate, but definitely saving up for a um, like a lidar. I cannot think of the word. Like heat sinking drone, basically like infrared, an IR drone, or a drone with IR settings, so I can go out and I've taken my drone personally out to Robbers Cave over the Bass Forest and stuff, but to be able to do like a 90-degree down shot at night and see what's there and what's going on with
Yeah.
it with infrared would just be pretty cool, especially in that area. You know, now I'm not gonna like try to like summon a Bigfoot or anything like that by that means, but it would be
I
cool just to go
wouldn't.
out. Yeah, it would be cool to go out and see what you see on the thermal,
Yeah.
um, and see if you just see any kind of movements that are not of like animal character, like on four legs, you know, like crawling around with the head down, stuff like that. So very cool, very cool. I appreciate you, Anna, being on the show. That's an awesome story. And
Yeah, thanks for
yeah, I just want to thank you for your time and
sure.
um, big shout out to the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends if there's anyone else you know that um, possibly anyone in your group, if they want to come out and reach out to, I wouldn't mind having them on as well. So that'd be cool.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll ask him. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, until then, take care and be safe for me.
All
Watch out
right.
for
Thank you.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, you too.
I will. All right. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching the channel. Feel free to like and subscribe for more content like this. We will be back with another guest shortly. And until then, we're out.